Fitness completely changed my life, and that's what I wanted to speak about on this video today. My story and how I went from a 13-year-old kid who was lost but knew he wanted more out of life to 24 years old now, running my own business in the best shape of my life and become a man who that 13-year-old kid wouldn't even recognize. So let's go to the beginning of this self-development journey, if you want to call it that. I picked up my first set of dumbbells when I was 13 years old. Before that, I'd already been doing push-ups, sit-ups, basically just trying to build somewhat of a foundation. And it wasn't until about 13 where basically my dad had some dumbbells in the garage, some like a bench press and some different bits. And they kept saying to me, no, you have to stay away from it because they're going to stunt your growth. And then one day I was just like, fuck it, like what's the worst that's gonna happen? I snuck in there, and as soon as that happened, it was like, boom, okay, this is what I'm doing now. It was literally like electricity. Like I was like, wow, this is incredible. And I wasn't like most other kids. I can remember watching YouTube back in the day, watching people like C.T. Fletcher, David Lade, and I can just remember so vividly like seeing these videos and being like, fuck, I want to be like them one day. I want to be involved with fitness. I want to look the way they do. I want to talk the way they do. And as soon as I saw those videos, I was like, okay, I have the potential to actually be more. So during that time, I started filming on YouTube. I started documenting the journey, not just on YouTube, but also Instagram. And I was posting my fitness bits on there. You can actually go back through this channel and see videos of me when I was like 14, some of my first ever videos. And it's funny to look back on now, but I can remember at the time where I was doing this stuff and I just basically had loads of people constantly taking the piss out of me. I'd walk into school, I'd have kids 2 years above, 3 years above, taking the piss, calling like me fucking names and shit like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wasn't ever like seriously bullied, but I definitely got the piss taken out of me. And those sort of things like would mount up quite a lot for normal people, especially at that age. But for me, I just knew, I just loved what I was doing so much. I was just so laser focused on this thing and nothing could sort of deter me off of that path. Now, over the years, like I didn't probably stay as consistent as I should have been, but the one thing that did stay consistent was the gym. Between the ages of about 14 to 16, I think I was training at Five Rivers at the time, which is a place in Salisbury, gym, leisure centre. And I was making steady progress, nothing too crazy, but I just had no idea what I was fucking doing. Like at the time, I was obviously trying to educate myself. I was reading multiple articles. I was looking on like T Nation back in the day, bodybuilding.com. I was reading all this different stuff, books, Arnold's Encyclopedia for Bodybuilding. I was watching YouTube videos. I was going through all this different stuff, right? But I still didn't have a clue. And then it got to the point where I was about 16 years old and I basically decided, I was like, okay, if I want to take this seriously, if I want to take my training, if I want to take myself to the next level, there's so many people out there that have more experience, more knowledge than me. So I invested in my first coach. I was about 16 years old at the time. I think I was working at Mountain Warehouse part-time and also I was at sixth form. And at the time, I must have been earning, I think fucking 250, 300 quid a month from Mountain Warehouse. And this coach that I was investing in was about £150 a month, right? Which is literally all my money gone. But I knew how bad I wanted to become this guy, become this character. And yeah, granted, I could have fucking spent money on, I don't know, clothes or sweets or fucking other shit, McDonald's, whatever it is, right? That the other kids were spending the money on. But I knew that I wanted to spend my money towards getting better, towards chasing this man that I wanted to become, right? So, and then instantly, soon as that happened, it was like mind-blowing. Like honestly, it was just like fucking shocking how much progress I started to make when I had the right guidance, when I had the right plan, when I had the right basically person with me going along that journey. I gained a shitload of size at the time. Like I was gaining muscle like fucking no one's business. And also the biggest thing, which was my strength. I can remember a very specific point where I think my deadlift was at like 160 at the time. I think I must have been like 16. And obviously for a 16-year-old, this is fucking good numbers, right? Obviously 160 is good anyway. So obviously I had that potential there. But then I started working with my coach. And my deadlift, I'm not even shitting you, went from 160 to 210. I think in the space of about 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. And I can remember coming into sixth form one day and literally like having people like, whoa, what the fuck like was that? Like they saw, basically they thought I was either fucking blasting gear or I was using fake plates at the gym that I was using, because I just, out of nowhere, my strength just fucking exploded. But it just came down to, okay, no, I actually have guidance and I'm actually investing in myself to get better. And that was a contributing factor. So I was working with that coach, things were going well in the gym, but at the time I was at college and I fucking hated it. Like I was skipping lessons. I was basically skipping lessons to go to the gym for the day to go and exercise. I wasn't paying attention, wasn't doing a test, wasn't doing any homework or anything. I was just basically dossing off, and it was just a complete waste of time. So it got about a year into college, or sixth form as we call it in the UK, and I basically dropped out. Because I basically just decided, okay, I'm not going to waste any more time here. This is not doing me any favors. Like another year here is not gonna, I knew for me, like going to uni was not on the cards, because I hated going through the education system as it was. I just knew it from a very early age anyway. But then I was like, okay, I need to be working. I need to get my hands on something and actually start making money, start building something. And ironically, I went into construction. Started labouring at about 17 years old, and it was fucking brutal. Like that was a big shock, especially coming from this like guy who obviously did some work at Mountain Warehouse, which was like retail, which is okay. Had some hard days, but as soon as I stepped on foot on that construction site, it was like, whoa, okay, this is serious hard work. I was doing labouring to start off with, lifting all the heavy shit, and it was crazy. But it was also crazy seeing how when I first got onto site, like even though I was 17 years old, even though I literally was as green as the grass, I didn't have a fucking clue about any form of construction at all. I was just this kid straight out of college. But on that first day, because I was already in shape and I stepped on foot on site and they could see that I was a big lad, like instant like respect was there from the other guys who were literally twice my age, who had been in construction working there for 20, 30 years or plus. But just from that initial sort of day, they already respected me because I knew how to work hard, because I'd already had that from the training from the gym. And that went such a long way from just getting my foot in the door basically with the construction. And it made my life a lot easier, to be honest. Not just with obviously fitting in with these guys and obviously them being able to sort of give me these lessons and actually take it on board because they knew that I'd actually work hard, but also just actually having that physicality to me to be able to do these tasks, to be able to sort of lift these timbers, these concrete blocks, all this different stuff that I was doing. Being that guy went such a long way. Even at that age, I could see the value in obviously the training and how it contributed towards the work. It was honestly probably the best thing I could have ever done, going straight from college into construction, because it taught me hard work. It taught me, okay, this is what you need to do to sort of get a job done. Like I was having to do some days would be like longer hours, like starting, especially in the winter. Like I can remember starting when it was literally like pitch black in the morning and finishing and it was pitch black at night in the winter times. Like it was really, really hard. Like my hands were fucking freezing. I can remember smashing. Honestly, the amount of scars and stuff I've picked up over the years of when I was working in construction, but it just showed me like what hard work actually looked like. It also taught me a shitload of skills. Like I know people who would basically be coming out of uni at 23 years old, 24 years old, and would be so clueless on anything when it comes to like just manual stuff around like the house, basically, like even like fixing a door or replacing something, or even just having that almost common sense, because it's all academic when you're obviously through the education system. But being in construction, it just taught me to think on my feet. It taught me basically not to be a fucking idiot, essentially, because like when you're that age, you're just sort of a bit dopey. You haven't really got a lot of common sense. You're just sort of going by. And I made a lot of mistakes. There were some days basically where I had tears coming down my eyes because I was fucking things up so bad. But with that, obviously I learned from it, I got better, and ultimately it formed me into the man I am today. And it was probably the best thing I could have ever done. So then a few years passed and lockdown happened, and I was still powerlifting at the time. I'd actually had a setup in my garage. I think I spent like $1.5 to $2,000, basically went into debt to buy all this gym equipment in this garage because I knew that I wanted to obviously stay consistent with it. I was heavy powerlifting, I was eating everything in sight. And I think I ended up getting up to like 100 kg body weight, which basically at the time it's like, oh yeah, I'm 100 kg, but I looked like shit. I can remember looking in the mirror one day and being like, what the fuck? Like, you've been working, like training so hard, and this is what you look like as a result of it. Like, what is going on? So then at 19, I decided, right, enough is enough. I need to get lean. I had some festivals coming up towards summer and some holidays and some different bits like that. And I was like, okay, I cannot step into summer with fucking tits, pasty white, like belly hanging out. Like, I was like, okay, I need to get dialed in, and I actually need to look the part. For the amount of like gym hours that I've been putting in, for the amount of work that I've been putting in, I need to actually look like someone who actually lifts. And the thing is, it wasn't just because I wanted to have that respect for myself. It was also because I thought back to that 13-year-old version of Lewis, and I was thinking, okay, the people I was looking up to at the time, like, they didn't look how I look now. They were lean, they were handsome, they actually looked the part. Even down to the fact that when I was younger, when I was watching these superhero films, these like different action movies like Arnie, Sylvester Stallone, like literally like Superman, Batman, all this different stuff that I was watching when I was younger. And I was looking at these people and I was like, these men, and I was like, holy shit, like that's what I fucking want to look like. And I was looking at myself in the mirror one day and I was like, I look nothing like this. I look like the fucking Michelin Man, basically. So then I got lean, and what I realized is it didn't just change my body, it completely changed my mindset. I was more confident. I had more drive. I actually wanted to pursue other things in my life. And even down to the point of like, the way people treated me was different. Like, I was more respected. I was more attractive to girls. Like, just down to that, like everything. So much stuff came from when I decided to be that guy who got lean, and it was quite like crazy because I never thought it would change that much. I thought, okay, when I get lean, like I'm already like sort of in shape, like when I get lean it can't be that much of a difference. Like, yeah, granted I might feel a bit more confident looking in the mirror, but I truly didn't realize the extent of how much everything can truly change, and even like down to the opportunities that started to come my way as well. But I also proved to myself from getting lean how capable I actually was, and I realized what I'd actually been settling with outside of the gym in my life, and one of them was the work. It was working in construction. Like, I realized that I'd been working in construction for about 3 or 4 years at the time, and I really didn't enjoy it. And what I realized is I'd given up on my passion and my dream to just go into this thing that was comfortable. Like, the idea in my head was, okay, it's just going to be like an initial thing. Like, I'll quickly do it because I'm out of sixth form, I'm out of college, and I'll do it to get a bit of money in. But that 1 year turned into 2, that 2 years turned into 3, 3 years to 4. And before I knew it, I blinked and 4 years had passed. And then I realized, fuck, like, what am I actually doing? Like, every single day I would grow to hate what I was doing more and more. The work that I was doing, like the commute, the hours, the stress of like what the job entailed, the environment, the people that I was working with. Like, I just realized, I was like, okay, I really need a change. And I can actually remember saying to my mum at one point, my mum and my dad, saying like, if I'm still in this, like, I got to a really dark place, to be honest. Like, there was a point where like I was really fucking angry with the position I was in, and I was like, I cannot be here any longer. Like, I do not want to be doing this work. And I literally said to my parents, like, I remember saying, like, if I'm still in this same position in 2 or 3 years time, like, I don't want to be here anymore. And that was enough of a wake up call to be like, okay, fuck, I need to change something immediately. So, as any 21-year-old would do, I quit my job and decided to basically try every single business under the sun. I started looking into affiliate marketing, Amazon FBA, I was looking into YouTube automation, at day trading, basically everything you could possibly think of, I was looking into, whilst I was also working a delivery driving job at the time. But then at 22 years old, I realized I'd racked up about 10 to 15K of debt, which I was like, shit, because of cars that I've been buying, trying to finance to look fucking rich, even though I wasn't, credit cards, buying gym equipment, clothes, going on fucking lads holidays and all sorts of shit basically. But I'd managed to, like, phone contracts, laptops, just loads of crazy shit, right? But I'd managed to rack up about 10 to 15K in debt. And I was just like, I'm getting further away from the life that I actually want. And it also didn't help that at the time as well, my car broke. The girl I was seeing dumped me. I was having to get the bus to work for 2 to 3 hours a day because my car was completely fucked. And the repair on it, basically because it was essentially going to be a gearbox fix, was going to be about $3,000 to get fixed. I just felt like a complete failure, to be honest. I just looked at my life and I was like, nothing is going right. Like, I am the furthest away from where I wanted to be at this age, at this time. And I truly felt like a failure. I can actually remember being sat on that bus one day, going to work, and literally my fist being clenched up because I had so much anger, feeling like, why am I such a failure? Why am I fucking up so bad? Tears rolling down my face, sat at the back of the fucking bus. And I was just like, okay. I basically, at that point, I had like a mindset shift. Like, a bit of sun came through the window at the point when the tears were rolling down my face. And I was just like, okay, it has to get better from here. If this is rock bottom, then it can only go up, right? We can only get better from here. So I was like, right, what can I actually control? What can I actually do that's good in my life right now that's going to help me get out of this? And what I realized was it was the gym. It was getting in there, and because I had so much pain, so much anger, so much energy, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to put this into a downward spiral. I'm going to use this for something productive. So I put all that pain, all that anger, all that energy into the gym. And I kept progressing with the gym, things were going well, but that is when it clicked. In my darkest spot, when everything was going to shit, I realised I'd been neglecting the one thing that I'd already been doing for years, which was coaching. I had already been coaching friends, already been coaching family, helping them, giving them programs, all this different stuff like that. But I just never thought to make it an actual business. I had never thought to actually go 100% into this one thing. It was always a thing that I did on the side just because I enjoyed it. But I was like, holy shit, I've spent all these years going through the gym, going through this progress myself. I've already invested like in 2 mentors, coaches at that point. I'd already done all this different stuff. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I've come from the worst space in my life, and the thing that pulled me through was becoming the man that I am now, or at that point in time I was, because of the gym, because of the physique that I built, because of the mindset that I built from the gym. And then I was like, holy shit, why do I just not teach other men how to do the same? So at that point, I put everything into Genesis coaching. I invested in mentors, I invested in courses, books, anything I could to make this an actual reality. There were so many ups and downs, so many failures. Things started to pick up, things started to gain momentum, then they went completely back on their basically arse. I think I got all the way up to about 7 clients, and I was like, whoa, this is sick. Like, I'm making money, things are going well. And then I had like 5 clients drop off. I went down to 2 clients, and I was like, holy shit, right, I need some guidance here, because clearly I don't know what I'm fucking doing. I knew how to coach people, I knew how to get people in shape, but I didn't know how a business actually worked. So at that point, I was looking around and I was like, okay, I need someone to show me how to run a business, how to grow an actual coaching business. So that is when I worked with a guy called Archie, PTXL, and he basically helped me scale my coaching business. This was probably late 2023. I believe it was about late 2023. And at the time, I still had debts racked up and I didn't have a lot of money. I was still working delivery driving, doing about 6 days a week of that because I was doing overtime to try and pay off those debts. And at the time, I was like still in this shit. And I had just a little bit of money on a credit card actually. And then I can remember basically sitting on one of these calls, and I think Archie said it was like £1.5 grand down or something like that, and then it was like 3 payments of 500 a month, or like four payments of 500 a month after. So total, it was about 3 grand, right? Total. And I was like, at the time, I was like, I'd never invested that much in myself before. Like, I'd invested with coaches, a couple coaches, spent like 150 a month, 199 a month. But then essentially I got to that point and I was like, holy shit, this is a lot of money. But because I knew I wanted it so fucking bad, I didn't even second guess. Like, I was just like, yeah, let's do it. Sent the money straight away and I started cracking on. And then within the space of 2 months, right? 2 fucking months, because I had the right guidance, because I was smashing it, staying consistent, I went from 2 clients to 23 in the space of 2 months. I literally went from doing my delivery driving job 6 days a week, right? 2 clients, to then 2 months later, having 23 clients, right? Full-time income. And then at that point, I dropped off the delivery driving and went full-time. And as soon as I went full-time, I got a one-way ticket to Marbella. I left the country and I was like, okay, this is sick. Let's keep this momentum going. I haven't seen any other parts of the world yet, because at that point, I had holidays with family. I'd been very fortunate to have that, but I had never actually left the country for an extended period of time. So I was like, fuck it, what have I got to lose? Let's pack up my bags and let's go. And my mate Aaron at the time, he was also running his own coaching business, and we were just like, fuck it, let's send this. So then from that point, what was only meant to be a couple months like of a trip actually ended up turning into 6 months outside of the UK, which was fucking crazy for me, because at that point I'd never been out of the UK like really properly for an extended period of time, and I decided to go fucking 6 months with Aaron, and also my mate Jack as well. He ended up joining us after Marbella, actually, when we went to Asia. So did the 3 months in Marbella. That was probably the sickest experience I've ever had. Like, the amount of people that I met, lessons learned, the experiences, it was incredible. And I had that, and then we were like, fuck it, well, like, why are we going to go back to the UK now? Like, okay, granted, like, we can only stay in Spain for 3 months because of visas and all this shit, but we were basically saying like, okay, why don't we see some more of the world? So ended up going to Thailand from that point. Went to Phuket straight from Marbella, and that was a completely eye-opening experience, like a completely different turn to what Marbella was. Marbella was very much like the flash lifestyle, the yachts, the supercars, which was great, and also you were constantly networking with all these entrepreneurs. And then we went to Thailand, and it was a complete opposite. We would see literally a family of 5 riding on a bike. It was just a completely different way of life, and it gave basically myself a completely different perspective. And yeah, basically 6 months down the line, after going to Marbella, after going to Phuket, after going to Koh Samui, after going to Vietnam as well, finally got back to the UK. And since all that time happened, basically all the traveling, all the trips, like all the different experiences, all this stuff that had been happening, since that point, the business kept on growing, and it's now gotten to a point where I have helped hundreds of men get in the best shape of their life, develop their confidence, take full control of their mindset and mastery of their own life. And it's still growing to this day. It's genuinely got to the point now where I live my dream life day to day. And it's incredible to say that, but I work with some incredible guys. I obviously have that opportunity to be able to teach these guys all the lessons I learned from the last decade of training in the gym, the decade of self-development journey that I had. And it's truly incredible. And I couldn't be any happier and any more grateful to sort of be in this position. Now, granted, it took a fucking lot of hard work. It took a lot of tears, a lot of pain, a lot of failures, a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of really fucking dark times, to be honest. But it's just a display of what can be possible if you stay persistent and if you stay consistent with what you actually want, no matter what that is. If you want to get in shape, for example, if you want to look a certain way, if you want to grow a business, if you want to go traveling, if you hate your fucking career right now, if you do not want to be in the life that you're currently in and you want something different, it just goes to show, like, if you have the willingness to do it, it can be done. Like, if I can fucking do it, any of you boys can. But essentially, the goal for myself now is just to have the biggest impact I possibly can. Not just help hundreds of lads, help thousands, hundreds of thousands of men all around the world, millions of men, right? That is the sort of long-term vision for myself. I want to help as many guys as possible who were in similar positions to myself, probably even a lot worse than my position. No matter how sort of like bad it is, or the struggles they're facing, or who they were in their past, what they've done, I want to be able to help other men make that sort of transformation themselves. And that is ultimately why I called it Genesis, is because it's a new beginning, right? The whole idea of Genesis is it's like the new start, right? The new beginning of everything. And that is ultimately what I try and sort of preach to the men that I have on board, to the people through the content, through you guys watching this video today, is like, you can completely change your life if you have a vision, if you have the goals, and if you also have the roadmap to do so. If there's any of you boys out there right now who are unhappy with the position they're in life, maybe you want to level up your physique, maybe you want to level up your mindset, maybe you want to change your career or take full control of your life, actually become the man you were meant to be, and make a transformation like I did, and also the transformation that hundreds of men have done also through Genesis, we can do that for you too. You can work with me and my team. All you've got to do is click the inquiry form below this video, fill it out, and I'll see you on the other side.